Thank you, Mary, and thank all of you for joining us this morning. I know you have very busy schedules. And I wanted to talk a little bit today about some of the research that we have been doing. User behavior. This is what I'll talk about. When you look at this slide, you see that we're talking about a model that's very different today than the model used to be. Libraries are not the only game in town. And so it's very important that we are an option that people want, that people know about. And this term library in the life of the user started out with one of my doctoral professors at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, Doug Zweizig, in his dissertation in the 1970s. Then, in an article in the 1990s by Wayne Wiegand, who also was one of my professors at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, he brought this to life again. And then Lorcan Dempsey, who is my boss, brought it to life again, and looking at it in a different way. And so this is something that is very important. We've been thinking about it, but now it's time to do some action. We know we have a lot of data. We've heard that. We've collected the data. Now we need to take action and use these data to make some differences. And as Tiffany from Nevada State College said, think of our resources in terms of users rather than uses. Now, people do lack the patience to wade through things. I'm going to give you some quotes. I'm not going to read these quotes to you. I'll let you read them. I don't know if you can see, but this is an 18-year-old male. And this is a quote that he talked to us about. And so we need to remember what we've learned is convenience is based on the situation and the context of that need. And so if I am sitting in a library, you'd think that if I had a reference question, I would stand up and walk up to the reference desk. But from our data, from question point transcripts, many people don't do that. They're sitting in the library, yet they are using virtual reference to ask the questions. How do we know that from transcripts? Because we'll see that when the individual asks the question, a librarian who may be part of the cooperative will type, "Oh, let me check your library for that." And the individual will respond and say, "Oh, I'm sitting in the library. I'm here. I can ask them." Why do they do this? Many different reasons. Maybe they don't think that the librarian looks friendly. How many times have we walked into a library and seen someone like this at the desk? Maybe I don't want to leave my chair. Maybe I'm afraid to leave my tablet or my laptop. So there are lots of reasons, and we need to get to some of these reasons as well. Now, the other thing that we're looking at is this whole motivation and behavior based on these different contexts. This is another quote, and I love this because this is a 17-year-old young woman, and she was so surprised that she found this bread-making recipe in a book, in a cookbook. She went online, and it was just too overwhelming. Well, I have the reverse of that. My mother was visiting me this summer, and we like to cook. I won't tell her exact age because she would murder me, but she's older. And she said to me, "Okay, we have all of these ingredients. What would you like to make?" And I said, "Well, here are a couple," I had 3 shelves of cookbooks in one room and 5 shelves in another room. And I said, "Well, there's so-and-so over here and this cookbook there. Pick one, let's go through them." She looked at me and she said, "You still use cookbooks?" And I said, "Yes, I like to read them. I like to know the history of things. I have my tablet. I'm going to use this." And so she looked up the recipe and she said, "Oh, by the way, I have a lot of cookbooks. If you want them, I'll give them to you." So things have changed. We need to provide the services that for what people actually do. And we need to know what people actually do. And it's very important to be able to have relationships and engage with individuals. And that comes up a lot. We also have to ask, but be careful what you ask, because you need to want to know the answer, and you need to be willing to do something about it or try to do something about it. So use the data, collect and use the data wisely. Doug Zweizig, who I said used the term the library and the library in the life of the user, told us a story in our research methods class. And he said, never go to a library and ask people, do you like this space? Do you like these books? Because he said they're always going to tell you what you want to hear. Yes, I like them. Why? And they may not like them. But why? Because they're afraid you may take something away from them. Even though they may not like it, they don't want you to take it away. And so you need to ask the questions in different ways. And so we need to be thinking about that. So basically, it's time for a change. We say that we should be embedded in their workflows. We know that some of the younger people, I have my nieces, they won't use Facebook, but my mother does. And so I had to get either Snapchat or Instagram so that I can see what my nieces are doing and they can see what I'm doing. So that's how we communicate. We need to embed ourselves in these different formats, in these different media. I love to use the example, it's an older example now, but it was the University of Nevada, Reno, and many of you probably know the story, where they took individuals who actually lived in the 1920s, attended their university, and took out snippets from different documents, their diaries, and gave them personas, made them come to life in Facebook. And so they have millions of followers, and they link to their digital materials. And when I talked to the university librarian, she said that physical traffic to those special collections increased immensely, as did the use of those digital documents. Now, Facebook made them take down those personas because they're not alive. Those people are not alive. However, they still are doing this, and that's how they got people involved in this collection. One of my colleagues who I work with in research is a computer scientist, and he said to me, you librarians think you can put up your the times that the library's open, your location, and Facebook. That's not where people go. What do? You get your smartphone, and you plug it in, and then that's how you get it. We don't care about that on the Facebook page. Use this medium as it should be used. When we interviewed the 12 to 18-year-olds that Rushkoff calls the screenagers, when we interviewed them, they talked about email. In the beginning, they told us email was for old people, okay? Now, I don't know what happened, but as we kept asking these same questions, they changed a little bit and said, well, email's for administrative work, for our academics. Our data reflect that last year of high school, first year of undergraduate students use email, but not 100%. But as they progress into their second year of undergraduate studies, from then through graduate students, researchers, scholars, they use email 100%. So what have we done? We've made them change to do things the way we do when we're saying we need to change and become more a part of their lives. And these are some of the things that we've found with some of our research. This was in the Reordering Ranganathan publication that we had. And one thing that Ranganathan said was, follow the reader from the moment he or she enters the library until the moment he or she leaves the library. Now, I don't think he was saying be stalkers, but I think what he was saying was observe, watch what they're doing. Now, he said this in the 1930s, and that's what we need to be doing, not just in that physical library, but in that digital library. And it's a problem that we can't say you should do this, this, and this. It's not prescriptive. Again, because it's based on that context and situation. And so even though economically we don't want to offer everything, we have to, but we need to also look at how we can reallocate resources. We have to change things. From the studies that we started in 2005 at OCLC with the perception studies, and through all the studies we have been doing to date, when people talk about libraries, they talk about books. And when I ask them, well, when you talk about these online things, sources, can I use them if I'm in an academic library? May I use these? They think about it. I don't think so. We pay something to the university, and that's how we get to access these. They don't mention library with these online sources. We need to market. One of the things that we hear is that individuals don't know what we offer. And we were having a focus group interview with undergraduates, and one of them said, boy, I wish there was a way that I could talk to a librarian online. And then someone else was talking, boy, I wish I could call the librarian. And I'm sitting there thinking, we have had telephone reference for a long time. We have chat reference, but as the interviewer, I could not interject, which was very difficult for me. And so I just waited, and about 5 minutes later, one of the young men in the focus group interview said, hey, I think you can ask a librarian something online. He said, there's this icon that says, ask a librarian. I think if you click on that, there's a librarian somewhere. Our terminology didn't even ask a librarian, did not click. And so we really need to promote this. We also need to know our community. We like to ski a lot, and so we go to Aspen quite a bit. And there's a kiosk in the middle of the town. And I'm always collecting data, all right? So I go up to the kiosk every time I'm there, even if I don't need something, and ask questions. And I want to see how the people respond. And so one day I said, how do you get this job? You know, what makes you able to sit at this kiosk? Hoping that the people would say, I work for the library or something. Oh no, we volunteer through the city. Well, in the meantime, the Aspen Library was asking for some funding. They wanted to do some remodeling, some renovations. One of my friends who owns a business in town said, I can't believe this library wants to add things. That library's just fine. Well, the thing that came to my mind was that library should have been at that kiosk. That library should have materials at that kiosk. And that's what I was looking for. You know, become a part of your community, whether it's the public library community, whether it's the academic library community. And that is really important. I also talked to a librarian who said she enrolled in a class for a semester, an academic librarian. She did not reveal her identity. And so she participated in all of the assignments. She went to every class. She became a part of that group. And at the end of the semester, you know, the students were talking about the next class they would take. And she said, well, I won't be taking any more classes. And so when they talked to her, she said, I work in the library. I'm a librarian. And so you can come and see me anytime or anyone in the library and we can help you. And so she had this relationship, this connection. And that was very important to these students because now they have someone who they know and who they can engage with. We also learned in virtual reference that even if the question wasn't answered, if the librarian was respectful, engaging, and built a relationship with that individual, the individual thought that that was a successful encounter, even without the answer. And so we need to be thinking about all of these things as we develop our services. We also have some things out there for you. You should not worry about reinventing the wheel. And you know a lot, and you have a lot of data. So you should be looking at what you know, and then identify what you don't know. And pick just a few things at a time. Don't try to do it all. There's lots of time. And so pick a few things, and then say, this is what I want to know, and how will I get to that? It may be surveys, it may be interviews, it may be observations, it may be asking individuals to do diaries. And so we have this GIST guide that we have a lot of information out there. You may use any of the questions, you may look at how we develop diaries, and it can help you to get more of this type of individual qualitative data that you can combine with this more quantitative data so that you can see the whole picture, and then you can make some decisions. And I will leave with this slide, and you'll see that learn what you don't know, which is very important, use what you know, and engage in new ways. And I think that's very important today. Thank you.